We're going to call this session Ask Butch. So it's going to give you all the opportunity to ask me whatever. And many of you do come up to me when we're at events, oftentimes try to give me the entire business pitch within a minute and a half. And I kindly listen to your business pitch and say, it'd probably be better if you put this in writing rather than give it to me in 90 seconds. So we're going to spend the next 30 minutes in a Ask Butch session, which is something we've not done before. But I will, and hopefully your questions will be leaned towards business and what we're doing. But even if they don't, I will try to address them. Is that fair for everybody? All right.
So how we're going to do this, just kind of like how we've been doing the family sessions earlier with, me coming up and walking up to you. We're going to do that same format. Now, I've got a couple of rules with this one. No pitches. Yes, I understand that's Butch Graves, Jr. I get that. And, we talk about pitch and we talk about opportunity. Unfortunately, that's not the time. This is not the time for that. So if it sounds like a pitch, I'm going to pull the mic. So, I'm just, look, can I be real with my family? Yeah. So no pitches, and do your best to keep your questions short so that we give enough people the opportunity, one, to ask their questions, but two, so everybody here in the room can benefit, because we can actually glean a lot from Butch in his many, many years of knowledge, okay? So is that fair, family? Is that fair? Okay, now keep in mind, any of y'all think about walking out? Yeah. No. You lose the chance of the prizes, which they're nice. Trust me. I tried to steal it. They wouldn't let me. So, all right. So, you just say you have to use the bathroom. No, if you just gonna miss out. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. So if we were at a Beyonce concert, oh, you're gonna use the bathroom? Okay. All right. As long as look, Beyonce, Butch, I'm just saying. All right. What you got, Tisha?
Good afternoon. My name is Letitia Manuel. I'm the founder and CEO of Summit Professional Consulting, a business management consulting firm. So because this session was going to be entitled How to Score Big in Business, Butch, what would you say with Black Enterprise? We all know the history of the company. What would you give us for advice on how to score big in business?
Well, first off, I think the biggest challenge for Black-owned businesses or small businesses, I'm not going to say just Black-owned businesses, but for smaller businesses, is that you focus too much on the raising of capital. And if I just had the money, then I'd be able to get this deal done. And the truth of the matter is the greatest obstacle for small businesses is not access to capital, it's scale. And so if you want to do business with Nationwide, you can't be a business that can only supply them 15 of X. They might need 150,000 of those things. And so if I were to focus on one thing, I would say for small business to become bigger businesses is you have to focus on how you can get to scale on whatever the product or service you're going to provide is going to be. And generally you can get to scale is by merging our businesses together rather than trying to be the CEO, the owner, 100 different titles you have for your business, but yet the business generates $100,000 in revenue. That is not a business that corporate America can do business with because you're not at size of scale. So focus on scale and getting your business to scale more so than if I could just have this money, I will become better. Fair?
Okay. So so far I've got 1, 2, then I'm gonna come back. So y'all be patient with me, y'all. Don't yell at me. Don't throw nothing at me. OD?
All right, thank you, sir. Hi, I'm OD Harris with Ready, Set, Go Foundation. My question that I have for you is, when you started business, can you just talk to us about some of your failures and some of your successes, and when did you land your first major contract?
Well, I can't speak to how this black enterprise is starting the business, because I didn't start Black Enterprise. But I can certainly speak about other things that we've started in that way. My father started Black Enterprise back in 1970. I can talk to you about a gazillion failures, but failures are only the road to a success. And for anybody who has ever been an entrepreneur, you're going to encounter, if you have not encountered failure, then you haven't tried something, you haven't tried hard enough in pursuing something. So we have a series of things that we've tried that were seemingly a success, but had to adjust and it turned into something that was good. I'll use one by way of example. That was an event. For many years, we hosted a Black Enterprise Ski Challenge. Now, anyone here who ever attended the Black Enterprise Ski Challenge? I see 4 or 5 hands. We loved the event. Great event, what have you. The problem is, it was very expensive. It was always out in Colorado. And we couldn't get sponsors to sponsor an event that had no business angle to it. Right? This event has a business angle to it. Right? Sponsors get something out of it. They're talking to people who can be of substance. Watching black people swoosh down the slope out in Colorado while eating, pork sandwiches on a hill was not something we could get sponsors to say, oh, please sign me up for 2 or 3 years of this. So while it was a fun event and people really liked it, it was not something that was sustainable over a period of time. So I wouldn't call it a failure per se, but it was not something that was going to work. Now, the bigger mistake people keep is when they keep trying to make something work when it's obvious it's not going to work. And you have to be able to shut it down when it's not going to work and then, pivot. We pivoted from that event and shut it down and created the Women of Power Summit. Right? And so, how many here have been to the Women of Power Summit? Mm-hmm. Okay? So it is arguably our largest and most successful event that we do right now. But so out of that, call it failure, rose a great success, but it really happened because we were prepared to make the decision quickly to stop something, pivot, and create something else. And that tends to be, sometimes sometimes we fall in love with the idea more than what the business model will dictate. Don't fall in love with your idea so much that you can't make an adjustment or pivot to what makes sense, right? For those of you who think that you've got I use this all the time, a barbecue sauce. And they go, I have the world's best barbecue sauce that I created. My grandmother's recipe, nobody has seen anything like it in the world. Problem is that, and then they go to talk to Walmart. Walmart already sells 135 different barbecue sauces. Literally. So the fact that you think that your barbecue sauce is great does not mean that the person who's the tester at Walmart is going to think that this is much different than the other 135 that they sell. Pivot and try something new, and don't be afraid to fail. Failure is nothing more than a road to success.
All right. So before I take this next question, do me a favor. Take your phones out, pull out the app, pull me up, because right after this, we're going to do our first door prize, all right?
Okay, I'll pull you up after then. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine White, and I'm the founder of HBCU Student Rentals. So my question to you is, I'm actually a Morgan alum, so I'm very familiar with Black Enterprise Magazine. I love the way you literally took over and 10x'd everything. So my question is, because I'm all about generational wealth and leaving a legacy, and I noticed that when the businesses get passed down to children, they usually squander it or squander the parents' wealth, or things just literally collapse. So I wonder how, I'm trying to formulate this question, how did you essentially grow up? Were you really, how much of a part of Black Enterprise magazine were you growing up as a child, if this makes sense. Hopefully my question makes sense. I'm just trying to leave a legacy and build generational wealth and leave something to my children in which they could take that and not squander my wealth and things that I worked for and 10x just like you did. So I just want to know, how did it all happen?
That was a very long question. Not sure I understand exactly, but I'll do the best I can. I believe what you were trying to ask is, how do you pass your business from one generation to the next without seeing it drop or fail? Okay, well, I'm glad I could be more concise. So here's the reality. It's got nothing to do with black or white. Most businesses do not pass from one generation to the next generation successfully. And in fact, most of you, I want you to be honest, how many of you here have an estate plan? Okay? I mean, have a will and estate plan. I mean, a solid will and estate plan. Now, most of you in this room did not raise your hand, which demonstrates to me one of two different things. Either A, you think you're going to live forever, which my father honestly really did believe, until I had to literally drive him to a cemetery one day. This is a true story, 25 years ago. He said, "What are we going here for?" I said, "We're going here because we're going to figure out where your final resting place is going to be." And he said, "Well, why?" I said, "Because we have not been able to do an estate plan because you refuse to focus on what I'm saying to you." And he said, "Okay, that's kind of cold that you had to take me to a cemetery to get my attention." But we subsequently did that. Now, the reason I say, do you have an estate plan or a will, is because we're not promised tomorrow, right? We're here at God's will. And you can't assume that whatever you're doing today will definitively be there for you tomorrow. So you have to have insurance, okay? Realistically, real insurance, but also have a plan for what it's going to be. So our business passed from my father, if you will, to the next generation because we had a plan and a very detailed, thought-through plan. And it took years to do, and it took time to do. But the reason most things fail is because there's no plan, right? There's no plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So you have to have a plan, a well-articulated, written-out plan with your children that says, here's what we're going to do at this particular time, at this particular time. And we had a full plan. But our plan assumed that my father would pass or predecease my mother. That did not happen, right? Unfortunately, my mom passed 7 years ago. And so our whole plan was thrown up sideways. Now, not totally sideways because they were married, so it didn't, that part, but there was a plan assumed because the assumption is the woman will outlive the man. That's when almost in every mortuary table that you look at will show you that. So you have to have a plan. And if you don't, then generally what will happen is the tax man will come and be owners in your business, right? Because you have not made a plan for how you're going to pass that business from one generation to the next. That means sitting down with wealth experts or insurance experts or what have you to make sure that when your business passes, no matter how small or how large it becomes, you have a plan for passing it to the next thing. So the things you hear about in stories oftentimes are not even people's fault. It's not because the business wasn't good. It's because there was no plan, right? And that's just unacceptable. So if I can implore upon you to do anything, one thing for sure when you go back, have a written out plan for your business and what it would do, even if your kids are 6 years old. What were you going to do with this business when it gets to the point when they would be able to take over and do that as well? Fair? Okay.
All right, give it up. Okay. So who wants a Samsung tablet? Okay, just her. Okay. All right. So here's the question. And again, you have to send me an inbox message. The first one who sends me the correct answer into my inbox gets this tablet. Huh? On the app. Carlos Davis. All right. So find me an app. If you do a search, now I know some of y'all have done it because some of y'all are negotiating trying to get this tablet from me. So I know some of y'all have done it, but again, just do a search for Carlos V. Davis. That's me. So here, and just inbox me the correct answer. So here's the question. I said this morning, blank over blank. What did I say? You better put it in the app or tell somebody.
Okay, while they're doing that, let's move on to the next question.
Okay. Who's got a question? Look, Butch, everybody trying to get that.
There's a lady in the back, Carlos.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Sadell Bradley. I'm from Cincinnati. I work for Mortar, which is a business incubator there in Cincinnati, and we have businesses all the way from lifestyle all the way to multi-million-dollar businesses. One of the things that we're observing is that the statistics are telling us that 90% of all businesses are single owner and non-employer, making about $50,000 or $60,000 a year. 70% of those are making under $20,000 a year. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the first 1, 2, or 3 things that you think that we can do, because of African Americans, that's about 96% of all businesses. What are the things that we all as a community can do to get people beyond this $60,000, $100,000 mark into a place of scaling?
Okay, so the question is, and it's all based on fact, 95% of black-owned businesses are sole proprietorships. What does that mean? That means you employ nobody but yourself. So 95% of black-owned businesses are by definition micro businesses because you're employing just you. That goes back to the very first question that was asked, and which is, what is the biggest impediment for black-owned businesses? It's the fact of scale. If everybody hands out a shingle that says, I'm now an event consultant, I'm a nonprofit consultant, I'm a what have you consultant, and the only person you employ is yourself, you have not passed on or grown our businesses to scale or size so that we can be significant enough to be able to do business with, quote, a large corporate, with corporate America as a whole. So if I had to say one particular thing is, let's assume you're here in Charlotte and you have a business and you're a stationery company. You supply stationery. And there's 6 of you, black-owned businesses, that do the same exact thing. And each of you employ how many people? 1. Means that your business, by definition, can only get to a certain size. That you are a jobber, in effect. You are negotiating and getting something done. Now, if, in fact, you would come together, right, and create a business of scale, you would have more. Let me put this into perspective. If American Airlines and US Air can merge, if JP Morgan Chase and Bank One can merge, if 2 large pharmaceutical companies can merge, I'll be damned if Pookie and Ray Ray can't merge, right? But what happens is Pookie and Ray Ray want to have a gold-plated business card that says, I'm the CEO. Here's the truth. 100% of nothing is nothing. So you can say you're all of those things, and I own 100% of the company. It doesn't mean anything. You can't deposit business cards at the bank. It may be cute inside the nightclub, right, to show all the ladies, look what I am, but it doesn't mean anything. You can't deposit that. I'd rather own 20%, or let me ask the question. Would you rather own 100% of a company that generates $100,000 or 20% of a company that generates $10 million? It's very simple. So we as black folks need to bury our egos, right? And stop walking around and telling me all the things that you are. I could care less what your title says. Show me your balance sheet. right? That's all. That would speak much louder to me than all of your titles. I could care less what your titles are. Just show me your balance sheet. Do you make money or do you not? That's the only thing that the bank is interested in. That's the only thing that corporate America is interested in. So as we start to put a focus on things, put a focus on merging your collective skill sets and create something of substance. There are people here, if you're not meeting 100 people here and getting their business card before you leave, you have failed yourself, right? You need to go down into the Biz Hub and make sure you have met corporate America, make sure you have met other people, and say, how can I get my business to grow? And how can I do business with you, Bob, and you, Steve, and you, Mary, and you, Jane, so that we can have a business of substance, so that we can then do business on a larger scale, all right?
All right.
All right.
So I
You
love
have an answer?
Yeah, that was good. So I love some of these answers that I got. Mind over matter, people over money, cash rules everything around me, dollar bill, y'all. Yeah, it was good. But the answer was collaboration over competition. Nia McAdoo, where are you? Oh, y'all clap loud in there. Don't be mad because she listened. Right there. All right. So that was the answer, collaboration over competition. All right, where's the question? Okay.
Thank you. My name is Constance Love Johnson. I am running for North Carolina State Superintendent of Public Instruction. And I own a magazine called City Political. So I'm generally engaged with state officials. But my question to you is, because our children are, in many cases and in most states, categorized to be challenged vocationally and as entrepreneurs and shoveled into certain categories that we're not pleased with and end up on that pipeline to prison, what challenged you and what inspired you to follow your father? And what ways can I inspire these entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, to invest more in the schools?
Okay. I don't know that I can solve all of that, but let me try to. I think the first thing we need to do is change mindsets of thinking that our schools are nothing more than a platform to move our kids from where they were towards prison, right? People can, in fact, if you don't demand more of the school, you don't demand more of the, it's not a pipeline to failure. Because you come from meager circumstances does not mean that you must stay in those circumstances. And so I don't buy into the narrative fully that despite whatever school you may go to, or whatever the circumstances may be, oh, my father wasn't home, or whatever it may be, everybody has their challenges. We have to hold and raise the standard of what we expect for kids to a higher level. And if you do that, they will meet that standard. The problem is we have children raising children. And when I say that, I don't mean literally age-wise children raising children. I mean mindset-wise children raising children. Children need parameters. Young people need, they need to see what rules and regulations they need to follow and have expectations of them that are strong. I remember fully, this happened to me. In high school, I went to go meet with the counselor, the guidance counselor, and they're talking about colleges. And this happens in every school. And I went to a very good public school, 98% white. The dean sitting there, I remember her face, and I remember her name, Dean Racanelli. She said to me, well, I'm looking at your transcript. Looked a little challenged here. I'm like, challenged? And I knew what my grades were. And she's like, there's probably some good state schools. So she started making recommendations for me of schools she thought would be best for me. Now, if you don't have someone who's challenging you at home and challenging that person telling you this is the best that you can do, she was already guiding me into you don't need to be reaching high. You need to stay right here where you are, and that's where you need to be. So I brought it back home to my mother. I said, hey, met with the guidance counselor. She said, this is where she thinks I should go. She took me by the ear. Let's go. Drove me back to the school. Nothing more impressive than an angry black woman walking into a school, right? So she walked into the school. She said, where is she? And I was like, Mom, we really don't have to, we don't. She said, no. She went in, found the dean, and said, here's the deal. Here's how this is going to work. You're no longer his guidance counselor. I'm his guidance counselor. And he will apply to schools that I tell him to go to, and he'll get in. This is what's going to, the fingers started moving, what have you. So, and this white woman was like, oh, God, I wasn't meaning that. Then she went over to the principal's office, took me to the principal and said, Principal, that guidance counselor should no longer be recommending schools to any person of color, period. She's no longer my son's guidance counselor, nor will she be my children's. So, if not having an involved parent, right? And I don't mean parents, parent. But if not having an involved parent, I would have been guided to something different than where I ultimately ended up. And so then my mother had me, and so I applied to all of these top schools, got into every one of them, and then my mother happily took the acceptance letters, went back to the school, and dropped it on the woman's desk, and said, the next time you start guiding someone, you better think about somebody. But anyway, so that's a long-winded way of saying, but at the end of the day, let's not lower our expectations to what other people are going to guide for us. Expect the most of what we can possibly do and push that hard. So I give that sort of personal anecdote to say that it happens to everyone, and especially our black boys and girls, right? We cannot allow for others to dictate for us what success looks like.
That's good, Butch. That's good. All right. So, family, y'all good? Yeah, y'all don't sound like, okay, so what if I said I'm giving away a Chromebook? Look, I'm just going to keep this because y'all don't sound excited enough to me. Look, I already gave out a tablet. Now we're giving away a Chromebook. Who wants a Chromebook? Okay. So here's the question, and then we're going to take one more question for Butch. So again, break out your app, find me in the app, send me an inbox message. Here is the question. Wendy Williams said this. Complete this. I'm not a judge.
Okay, while they're doing it, let's go to the next question.
Let me get another question. Hold on. She was over here. I got her.
Thank you, Mr. Graves, for the opportunity. My name, again, is Tara Jackson, a.k.a. Madam Money, author of Financial Fornication. The question that I have for those that are already on the speaker circuit or looking to be on the speaker circuit, what are you or Black Enterprise looking for future speakers at your events?
Just say it one more time. How do we determine speakers for the upcoming events?
What are you looking for?
Well, very good question. We have an entire content team that puts together all of our events in regards to who's going to speak, who's not going to speak, what have you. One is, generally, they had to have seen you somewhere before, so to know that if they ask a question, the person, to either serve as a moderator or to serve as a panelist. Sometimes moderators get confused that they forget that they're there to moderate, not to talk. Your job as a moderator is to make sure that the three panelists or two panelists get a chance to speak. So I would say to you, the same thing I would say about almost everything else, what I say to my kids, the squeaky wheel gets fixed. You need to find the content people from Black Enterprise that are here, introduce yourself to them, and tell them about what it is that you do, and get yourself in the mix of people they would consider, right? Here's what I won't do. I meet a lot of people who tell me, I'd like to tell you about my business, what have you. I would be a great speaker for your upcoming event. I said, that's great. I don't make that decision. And I truly don't make that decision, right? And I don't want to be heavy-handed. I'm not going to tell the content team, you're going to put Jerome on this panel because he should be on the panel. You've got to demonstrate that you have a history of having spoken at something so that we know that you and feel confident, because all of you have come here and put your time. Your time is money. Have invested your time and your money, and you want to hear from people who can help to elevate you from where you are. And so there's no magic to it, but speakers generally have had a history of having done something somewhere, and you never know, especially in today's time with social media, who will see you. So utilize that and find our folks. Now, I'll try to help you with that. Are any of the Black Enterprise content team people inside the room right now? Stand up. Everyone who's from Black Enterprise who's a content person. The rest of them are trying to run and hide and duck, but there's Alfred and Derek and Lydia right here. So you need to find those people. There's no guarantee just because you came to talk to them that they're going to necessarily select you, but you got to be at least in the mix so that we understand who you are. Fair enough?
And Butch, on that note, for the content team as well, I can, with me being in this seat, I can add some value to that too for anybody that, is interested and wants to understand. All right. So
we have time for 2 more, but do this first.
Should we? All right. Okay. So who can tell me? Wendy said, I'm not a judge, but Hatsu Ramadan, if I'm saying your name right. Is it Hatsu? I'm saying it. Oh, Hatsu. Okay. Look, congratulate him now. Can I borrow it? Can I borrow it? All right, cool. All right, so we're going to do 2 more questions per Butch. I know somebody around here. Yes.
Get some of the gentlemen in the back.
Oh.
Okay.
Got to follow the rules. Let me go get them. Follow the boss's rules.
Young lady, I see your hand up, so we're going to get you, okay? Promise.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Butch. Damian Mills, CEO of Mills Automotive, and more of a statement and a question.
Speak up, because we can't hear you.
Damian Mills from Mills Automotive Group.
Yep. Hey, Damien.
Hey.
Congratulations to you, too, by the way.
Thank you, sir. More of a statement and a question. First thing is, I want to thank you for doing this. Thank your father for doing this. When I came up from Louisiana in 1991 to go to A&T, the only magazine I probably would read on a regular basis was Jet magazine. But as I got into the business school, I started reading Black Enterprise magazine. And until I saw what was capable to be accomplished by African Americans based on you and your father's publication, it opened my mind to possibility. And I want you to know that being the first place I saw the ability to become a BE 100 was reading in your magazine, reading the stories about all those successful African Americans from all over the country, and ripping those pages out, making contacts, writing letters, all because of what you guys have done. I want to encourage you to continue to do what it is you do, because it opens the minds of possibilities to the countless number of quiet individuals all over this country, and you guys help create more than you even know. Yeah. Last question. The question is, what is BE going to look like in the next 10 years?
Okay, so Damien, stand up, Damien, again. So I want you all to see Damien. He is, which you'll see on Friday night, he is our BE 100's Automobile Dealer of the Year. He's from here in North Carolina. and one of the largest black-owned businesses in the country. So let's give it up again for Damien for coming here and being a part of that. I would be remiss if and I'm going to get to your question in a quick second. You can sit, Damien. If I didn't tell you why what he's saying is important. If you're going to go and buy a car or lease a car, you can lease a car or buy a car from anyone. But here's the key, and this goes back to the question the young lady asked, how do we get our business to get to scale? If we will not do business with ourselves, you cannot expect others to do business with you. Meaning, the dollar in the Jewish community turns over 6 times before it ever leaves. There's no confusion in their community at all. They may not even like one another, but they will damn sure spend money with each other. In the black community, it turns over less than 1/2, meaning as soon as it hits your pocket, you can't wait to take it and spend it with somebody else. So, I challenge you here. Damien, how far away are you from Charlotte? You're in Charlotte. Jesus. Okay. Make it even easier for you. If you're going to buy a car or a truck, go to this brother's dealerships and buy a car or truck and support a black-owned business. It's just that simple. But we don't do that. We practice it firsthand. And I'll use the car dealership thing as an example. So a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago, one of our clients, because I only do business with people that do business with us, one of our clients was BMW. I had to get an SUV, and I said, you know what? I need to get an SUV because we live in the north. You guys don't know what snow looks like, but you have to have snow. So I said, I got to get an SUV, and I want to have something that's safe for my kids to drive in when they're going to school and what have you. So I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go get myself a BMW. And they were a client, so the guy called them up and talked to the CEO and said, oh, Mr. Graves, absolutely. You know, we have a whole thing that we do with our vendors. You can get the vendor discount and it'd be wonderful. And I said, great. He goes, where do you live? I told him where I lived. He said, oh, we have a dealership 2 miles from your house. I said, that's great. I said, is he a black-owned dealership? He said, a black-owned dealership? I said, yes. Is the dealership that's 2 miles from my house black-owned? He said, no. He said, but it's 2 miles from your house. I said, that's great. Where is your nearest black-owned dealership? He said, now he didn't even know because they have so few dealerships. He's like, I don't know if it's my, can I get back to you? I said, yeah, you can get back to me. Hour later, calls me back, says, I got bad news. I said, what's the bad news? He said, the closest dealership we have is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I live in Westchester County, New York. 6 hours. 6-hour drive. I said, no problem. Can I have the phone number of that brother, please? So he gave me the dealership's number. I called up the guy. Good friend. Now he's a good friend. Called him up and I said, explain what I was. He goes, not a problem, Mr. Graves. And that brother drove the car from Pittsburgh to my home, okay? Because I called him to say I wanted to buy a car from his dealership. So please don't tell me about the distance is too great and what have you. The bottom line is that we as black folks need to do business with other black folks, and I'm encouraging you. Damien, I want a commission off this. I want you to buy cars and trucks from Damien. Fair enough? Now, as far as that's, to answer your question, what do we plan on doing in the next 10 years? You have to be nimble, right? You have to be nimble. I will tell you, we have gone through what is the most difficult period in our business in a long period, since forever, right? Now, how many people here are under the age of 30? Now, under the age, no lying, please. Yolanda, put your hand down. You got socks and shoes that are 30 years old. Okay, now, if you're under the age of 30, Most of you under the age of 30, including my 4 millennial children, or millennial adults, I should call them, have never read a magazine or a newspaper. Never seen a record, don't know what a cassette is, never seen a turntable, you name it. Watch TV on demand only, don't have cable. I call them, they text me back, everything possible. So what's happened is our business has changed, right? So the magazine business for us, which was 95% of our revenue 20 years ago, 15 years ago, is now 10% of our revenue today. It's been flipped over on its head. The event business, the digital business, our other things have now taken flight of that. So when you say what's next for the next 10 years, our business is going to become much more of a digital and event business, which will be supported by, on occasion, quarterly, a print business underneath it. But we have to connect people. And our business is about connecting people, and that's where we're going to go. That said, Carlos,
Sir?
folks here, yes?
We're good?
Oh, I'm sorry, I promised that young lady, I did promise her
Okay.
we'd have one question.
You?
So this is the very last question.
Yep.
My name is Cole Banks. I'm the founder of Sisters Traveling
Speak.
Solo. We host group trips around the world, mainly for women of color. So my question was about resources. So we're able to grow our company to $1 million business in 2 years, and we're projected to reach $1 million this year. But my issue is resources. So what resources do you recommend for somebody trying to scale? Because I don't want to own the business myself. I want to hire staff. But right now it's, how do you bring on staff? Do you have enough money to bring on the staff? And, so what resources would you suggest that I look into? As far
You're
as
talking about financial resources.
Yeah, financial resources, and then any other resources that help me understand like the best way to bring on new people or onboard like staff and things like that.
Well, I think, again, access to capital, which is what you're suggesting, which is how do you have someone want to invest in your idea and put capital, not just their thoughts, but capital to work that you can take and utilize for whatever it may be. I don't know how much of your business you own, but let me assume for a moment you own all of it. The reality is that you may have to bring in someone who's a financial partner, a limited partner, meaning that you maintain control, operational control, but that you take on resources from someone else who can grow your business, right? If you look at Silicon Valley, you look at how these businesses have grown, how they've got access to capital. They have access to capital because they have provided equity in their business in exchange for resources, financial resources. And that access to capital, whether it's a venture capital firm or it's a banking institution or it's a angel investor, whoever it may be, you have to be willing to give up some of your equity in order to get resources. Okay. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm going to own 100% of this, I'm going to make all the decisions, I'm going to do everything myself, and I want you to give me money anyway. I mean, those two don't line up. And I know psychologically it's difficult to think about that, but you can do all kinds of different things. You can have a warrant that allows you to buy back their equity at some other date or some other point in the future. But you're not going to be able to gain access to capital unless you're prepared to share in the wealth, right? Because would you rather own 100% of your $1 million company right now, or would you rather own 55% of a $10 million company? And that's the question you're going to have to answer, that but only can be fixed here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for allowing me to participate with you this afternoon.
Family, give it up for Earl Butch Graves Jr.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, my brother.